Yeah, getting back to the game, just to bring folks up to par, if you're jumping on now, Lions were up 13 to nothing. Had the offense rolling in the first quarter. Then the field goals started churning out. The defense was in the bend, don't break mode. And I believe there's a certain gentleman by that goes the name of D on Twitter. Man, I think Blake Martinez looked like a tackling machine out there tonight. Didn't he do to you, Jay, or no?
Oh, I was, look, if I would have kept notes, because, look, literally, I'm going to be honest here. The more they win, the harder it is for me to not get sucked into being a fan right now, Dave.
Yeah, I know, because I know,
Because the
and hey, I'm gonna be
expectations
that
start to
fan for
build.
you.
Okay? And so I had a hard time after the Jones fumble. I stopped taking notes. But if I was still taking notes, I would have been taking count of how many times I heard Blake Martinez make a tackle 3 to 4 yards inside, which is what
Boom.
he said he wasn't doing, and which is what he's supposed to be doing.
He's been on that hype train for the past 3 years. I don't get it.
And
I, I
so,
he,
yeah, it did make me kind of laugh a little bit because
he also
it
said
was
Jeff
evident.
Janis was a legitimate outside receiver that we could use, but yeah, I always throw that in his face because sorry, Jeff
And
Janis
Pettin
is
doesn't play a bend but don't break defense. He's an attacking defense that will live or
tonight.
die by
Yes, he
giving up
showed that.
runs. I mean, that's just what
Um,
he is. It's a smoke and mirror attacking defense. They'll show
Kerryon
blitz one side,
Johnson,
drop that side, and bring pressure from the middle and not even the other side. They're just everywhere. They line up guys all over the place.
Kerryon Johnson, Jamal Agnew, Matt Stafford, J.D. McKissick, all had. Get this, Jay. You ready for it?
Okay, what is
Fif-
it? What is it?
54 yards rushing total as a team, and held
Oh,
Kerryon Johnson
but they can't
to
stop the run.
34 yards. And look at that. Stafford threw
And
the
they
ball
had the lead
32
the
times.
whole game.
The lead, and they didn't run the ball, folks. They kept throwing it. Stafford, it's like, I don't get it. And didn't I say this to Julius on the preview show? Whenever Stafford plays the Packers, it's like he has to prove he is just as good as Rodgers, or he's just like he can get a win in big games like this. And again, folks, the Lions don't get a big win again. I,
Oh, you
it's
know
I
what
think it's what
I really laughed about is that they were talking about before the game, and I made a mental note of this, right? They were
hmm
talking about before the game. 75% of the Lions roster has never lost to the Packers. And you know what my first thought was, Dave? Guess what
Tell
my
me,
first
Jay.
thought was?
No, I want to hear it. Tell me.
In the same voice. That's because 75% of the roster has never faced Aaron Rodgers, actually.
Bingo.
That was one of the dumbest comments I've heard. And can I also say this?
Booger
Booger
McFarland.
McFarland is got to be the most dumb, asinine person to call a football game ever.
I've
And
said this
Joe
last time
Tessitore
we talked
is
about it.
okay, but when he gets sucked into Booger's dumbassness, he becomes just as stupid, if not worse. And it becomes one of the worst broadcasts I've ever had to listen to, just on both sides. It has nothing to do with what they said about the Packers, just anything in general about the game. Booger McFarland is just terrible. He is terrible. For a guy that actually played the game, he has zero knowledge of what the hell is going on the field and why it's happening, or an ability to explain it, at least on that level. He makes my ears bleed when he talks.
Hey, just an update. Roger just had his post-game interview, and guess what he asked LaFleur?
Rodgers?
Yeah, he asked LaFleur that he was asked if there's anything else that kind of was discussed through them on the sideline, and he goes, "Yeah, actually." He goes, I was one of the main reasons Lazard came in. He goes, I asked if 13 can come in because of the fact that the other receivers were kind of not finding anything. And lo and behold, look what happened. Leading receiver for the night. He only had 65 yards, folks, but
Oh,
guess what?
can we
That was
give
in
a
a quarter and
shout
a half.
out and a big to Alan Lazard, because he did come in and really
Congratulations, young man.
good job. He is an him out of the two, you get rid of Shepard and give that roster spot to somebody else and put Lazard over Geronimo. Geronimo needs to
Did you
go
see
too.
who they cut tonight to
Trade.
make for Evan Bayless, a tight end that wasn't even used? Tremont Smith, the kick return and punt return specialist, and then you put Darius Shepard back there.
Shepard's got to go. He was just terrible. And
He was a
I'm
training
sorry,
camp
he's
darling. That's what
undersized.
he was.
And he proved he can't play the last 2 weeks. Bye-bye.
Yeah, I mean, he actually had screens set up
And
for
I
him
hate
tonight,
to say it,
and he
but
was just
Sullivan as a
indecisive.
corner was showing flashes. Sullivan as a safety, he needs to go. Or you got to put him back at corner.
So Sullivan at nickel corner, I'll take all day. Sullivan at safety, I feel that way they did it because of the fact of Savage
I
being out.
want
They were kind of
Adrian
trying to
Amos
save.
playing safety. If Shep or if we don't have Savage, you have to have Amos back there. You have to, because then guess what happens? You end up in a situation of what we've been in with two
Mhm.
terrible safeties back there giving up huge plays. That's a coaching staff fail to me, Dave, that pissed me off and was one of the reasons why I stopped taking notes. Look, I can take notes and forgive and not really get into my pissed off fan mode if players are making, because I can understand players and I might get mad, but when I see coaches just do dumb shit like that, like, okay, well, we spent all this money and all this capital to fix this safety position. I've got my draft capital position is injured. So as a coach, I am going to choose to put my team and my defense back into a terrible situation, which my GM just spent a bunch of money on a guy that's healthy on the field. It's dumb. It pisses me
Do you
off.
know why
It's
we used
terrible
him though
coaching.
tonight? Do you see
Sorry.
why we used him though? No,
I
I like the
understand
moves that they
why,
did,
but those big plays, if Amos is back there, I'm telling you, they were communication and angle problems a veteran doesn't make.
and that's the
Sorry.
thing. That's the impact of having Savage to these guys. But Amos was also used tonight to also cover guys like T.J. Hawkinson. Hawkinson didn't do anything tonight. This big tight end that was supposedly going to take down the
But then
monsters in
put
the NFC
Tremont
North.
back there. Put
I,
some veteran back there.
I got that, but guess what? They ended up holding up their end of the bargain after the first quarter. There was no
Well,
monster play. No, 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 no.
whoa! I
After
just
the
hit the
first
button.
quarter,
My seat went down.
after
I
the
just
first
got really
quarter,
short.
yeah,
Don't
I thought
say
that was
it.
impossible. Anyways, I after the first
Having
quarter,
trouble.
the offense cooled off, and Pettin made the right adjustments. And if you see what he did, he not only had two safeties, but he had three safeties in there. He played a little bit of big nickel on there and throw three safeties on there to purposely have Amos and still have some coverage on the back end because the big plays were killing us in the first quarter. In the second quarter, he made the adjustments. I get it.
Oh,
Shannon
they got
Sullivan is
better.
not a
They got better.
yeah, but that's what I'm
But I
saying is
still
you act like
don't.
they just lost the game. They held their
I
end of the
don't.
bargain.
No, I'm sorry. I'm harsh. You know that, dude. I don't care win or lose.
Yeah,
I'm
but that's a big
harsh.
drop off from Savage, man. Next week, Savage, it looks like he'll be back. That's
Oh, it's a short
what.
week though.
No, I
They
understand
play
that,
on
but they're
Sunday.
also saying that he's close. So I'm excited because now we stay at home,
Oh,
play
he was
Oakland.
greatly missed. I'm sorry. His
Yeah,
his ability to just close on some of those plays when the ball's still in the air was missed tonight, because I think a couple of those big
great.
plays he could have broke them up even from a position where those other guys, he's just that quick. And if anybody doesn't believe me, please go watch the tape. I am not bloviating about this kid. He's special. Like, there's not a lot of defensive players that play in the secondary at this age that are can do what he's doing. We saw it last year in the L.A. Chargers. Derwin James did it last year. And I know it's like, oh, but I know it's kind of funny that it happened in back-to-back drafts. But name the last two guys you can say that were really that impactful, and you know that were playing beyond their years and a rookie. Darwin James last year, Darnell Savage this week.
Chargers got another one this year, but he's hurt. Is Adderley? They ended up picking him up in the draft, and he was another guy that was supposed to come out and be Studley. I would have wanted him or Savage. I would have been completely fine with that, but we end up with Savage, which I still love.
About Savage, Adderley.
No. I got that.
We were split on Adderley.
Talk about the defense holding its end of the bargain. They only allowed 299 yards total. After that first quarter, Jay, would you have thought they would have held their opponent to under 300 yards?
No, but them big sacks made a big difference.
The Packers defense now has 6 games holding the opposition under 300 offensive yards. Sets the start of 2018 season. That means Pettin's defense is just going to keep getting better and better, folks. We did that tonight without Darnell Savage. Imagine what they're going to do with Savage back. Oh, God, this is such a sweet win.
Look, the offense had some regression tonight, and they're clearly missing that.
I mean, they're missing
Jones
Adams.
Had an off night, but let's be real. Like, that's a blip on the radar. That's not a regular. 9 times out of 10, Jones catches that ball. 99% of the time, he doesn't fumble that ball. He hangs on to it. So okay, he had a bad night. He had a bad night. I'm not going to call it regression.
Do you know the hard hit he put on Aaron Jones?
If I say I'm not going to say the offense is regressed because it was a blip of a couple of players and some uncharacteristic plays, I'm not being a homer. Like, regression to me is much more than what happened tonight with the offense.
You had Geronimo knocked out of the game. You had MVS go out for a stretch. You had Darius Shepard turn the ball over twice in a punt return and a interception off his face mask. I mean, no Adams. I mean, I can't say it's a regression because now you're finding guys like Lazard who's coming out and he's showing he can be a part of this offense. So he's going to move up the peg chart.
Saying. I don't think it's regression. I think it's like you would say in week 4, that wasn't a defense regression. That was a blip. Tonight, it's not an offensive regression. It's a blip. It's a
and
player
it shows
having
that Aaron Rodgers is still Aaron Rodgers too.
Oh, he did well.
Also, welcome back Jamal Williams.
Oh, he was.
Do you want to hear this stat line?
Man. He gets a shout out tonight too. We gave one to Alan Lazard. Jay Swaggy deserves one.
14 carries, 104 yards, 7.4 yards a carry. Whew. Aaron Jones. 11 carries for 47 yards, 4.3 yards a carry. So they have 2 backs that are averaging above 4 yards a carry in the game. Man, and I've said it since they've got both of these guys. I feel like Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones, or vice versa, no matter what order, it just depends on what game plan we're using. And last week, Aaron Jones went the hell off. This week, Jamal Williams went the hell off.
I can deal with that. That's fine with me, even though it doesn't help me.
They remind me of Dorsey Levens and Edgar Bennett, how they were used in 1996 Super Bowl season. That's all I'm saying. They remind me of that dual punch, use them for whatever purpose type offense.
Well, because they can both do both now. A couple of years ago when they were rookies, it was clear that Jamal was in there for passing downs. He could run, but you knew that they were most likely going to pass because he could pass protect.
Oh, yeah.
Jones, you knew they were probably not going to, or it was going to be play action.
Yeah.
But now they even, did you see, I think there was at least 6 or 8 times they were both in the backfield together or on the field. Yeah. One was lined up in the slot or whatever, and the other one. So they are doing a lot of the things that I was talking about in the preseason. They're getting into that more as the offense is finding itself, and they're getting deeper into the playbook and the season goes on. Do you see a theme that you and I both called here of why we don't get overly excited over the first 4 weeks? Even though we were excited because there's some things going on we thought. But, yeah, it's only going to get more expansive here.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. You go and look. They just said that at the end of the game, the next 3 of 4 games for the Packers is favored by the Packers on their schedule. And to me, now Vegas and everybody else is starting to notice, man, this Packers team is still winning on bad games. So